The title of this presentation is Dyslexia, Specific Learning Disability, and Reading Disabilities. Special education teachers, and reading specialists all play a role in designing and implementing literacy instruction that meets a wide range of needs. Some students who benefit from universal design for learning and assistive technology are students with dyslexia, students with specific learning disabilities, and students with reading disabilities. Let's quickly revisit what we know about skilled reading. To make meaning from text, readers apply decoding skills and use language comprehension skills. So-called typical readers can not only comprehend text, but also read fluently when they make use of decoding and language processing skills. For students whose profiles reflect so-called atypical development, we might see patterns of difficulty with decoding and/or comprehension and/or attention and memory. Defining reading disabilities is a challenge. Rather than defining what a reading disability is, we often focus on what it is not. That means exclusionary criteria are used. Dyslexia is a term used to refer to one form of a so-called reading disability. According to the International Dyslexia Association, dyslexia is a specific learning disability that is neurological in origin. It is characterized by difficulties with accurate and/or fluent word recognition and by poor spelling and decoding abilities. These difficulties typically result from a deficit in the phonological component of language that is often unexpected in relation to other cognitive abilities and the provision of effective classroom instruction. Secondary consequences may include problems in reading comprehension and reduced reading experience that can impede the growth of vocabulary and academic knowledge. Under federal legislation, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act of 2004, the term dyslexia appears in Section 300.8C10, where specific learning disability is defined as a disorder in one or more of the basic psychological processes involved in understanding or using language, spoken or written, that may manifest itself in the imperfect ability to listen, think, speak, read, write, spell, or do mathematical calculations, including conditions such as perceptual disabilities, brain injury, minimal brain dysfunction, dyslexia, and developmental aphasia. Disorders not included. Specific learning disability does not include learning problems that are primarily the result of visual, hearing, or motor disabilities, intellectual disability, emotional disturbance, or of environmental, cultural, or economic disadvantage. The Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, DPI, published guidance to underscore that Individualized Education Plan, IEP, documents can include the use of the term dyslexia when making eligibility determinations. This guidance was necessary because the practice of using the term dyslexia in IEP records occurred rarely in comparison with the use of the term specific learning disability. Reading disabilities, dyslexia, and specific learning disability are not a visual problem, a lack of intelligence, a lack of effort, a developmental delay. They are also not uncommon. Typically, reading disabilities, dyslexia, and specific learning disability are not responsive to standardized instruction. Here is a depiction of the characteristics one might see in the profile of a reader with dyslexia. These characteristics cluster around the themes of spelling. For example, can't remember what words look like. Listening, for example, finding background noise distracting. Writing, for example, difficulty getting ideas on paper. Spatial and temporal, for example, left-right confusion, getting lost easily. Memory difficulties, for example, struggling to remember sequences like in a phone number. Motor control, for example, coordination problems. And reading, for example, losing one's place in text. Some additional challenges are experienced by students with so-called reading disabilities, dyslexia, or the specific learning disability eligibility. These include challenges with executive function, anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. One of the top recommendations for intervening to address so-called reading disabilities, particularly when decoding or decoding and language comprehension is the area of weakness, is to build phonological awareness and to use explicit, systematic, multisensory instruction to improve use of phonics skills. Is it enough to remediate by focusing on phonological awareness and phonics? What else could be a focus? Watch the video clip that's linked on Canvas of specially designed instruction. Through specially designed instruction, teachers help students to develop important concepts and skills that provide the foundation for more complex learning. In specially designed instruction, teachers sequence lessons that build on each other and make connections explicit in both planning and delivery. They activate students' prior knowledge and show how each lesson fits within the previous ones. Planning involves careful considerations of learning goals, what is involved in reaching the goals, and allocating time accordingly. Ongoing changes like pacing and examples occur throughout the sequence based on student performance observation data. Another important component of instruction for students with so-called reading disabilities is the use of feedback to guide learning and behavior. The purpose of feedback is to guide student learning and behavior and increase students' motivation, engagement, independence, leading to improved student learning and behavior, while also reducing the affective filter or experience of anxiety that students might feel in the learning context. Effective feedback must be strategically delivered and goal-directed. Feedback is most effective when the learner has a goal and the feedback informs the learner regarding areas needing improvement and ways to improve performance. Feedback may be verbal, nonverbal, or written, and should be timely, contingent, genuine, meaningful, age-appropriate, and given at rates commensurate with the task and phase of learning, for example, acquisition, fluency, or maintenance phases. Students should expect to receive ongoing feedback from teachers. The feedback should be provided until learners reach their established learning goals.